Thanks. All right, everybody, thanks for waiting. Attendance tonight was 11,575. The gate was 3.7 million. Fight of the night is Jones-Cormier. Performance of the nights were Felder and Jordan. Congratulations, they all get $50,000. Go ahead, buddy.
We'll start with Cowboy, if we could, please. Obviously, a dominating win for you tonight, but couldn't help but notice you looked kind of disgusted as you walked past press row. Tell us about your take on the fight.
I just completely upset with I'm a guy that I don't like hearing boos. That's not me. My legacy is I want to be fighting my ass off every time. So I don't consider that a win. I'm upset with my performance, and I'm going to go watch the tape and figure out what I need to do to capitalize if that happens again, So very upset with the performance I put in tonight, and I apologize to everyone that was watching and the hype that was behind all that.
There's obviously you always fight with intensity, but there was a look on your face as you were throwing those leg kicks to close the fight out. Do you remember what was going through your head at that time? You looked pretty more angry, I think, than I've ever seen you in a fight.
Oh, the fuck you kicks? Yeah, those were that's what that was. That was everything. I was either trying to kick and break my leg or his. I was very upset.
And last thing I have for you, it seems like the only fight that makes sense in terms of ranking is Khabib Nurmagomedov, but it is a couple months away from me out. Is that a fight that you'd be willing to wait a little bit longer, or are you just trying to book something right away? What fight makes sense to you right now?
Hopefully, he just signed Dos Anjos, so that's a no-go. But Denver, Colorado in a couple weeks would be fucking pretty cool.
That's my boy. And I couldn't disagree with him more, by the way. I think that he went out. Miles Jury is a very tough kid, and Cowboy shut him down today. I think the jiu-jitsu in that first round blew Jury's mind. He didn't see that coming, and then his offense basically shut down after that first round. And Cowboy was moving forward. Cowboy was doing what Cowboy does, so I disagree with him.
For Hector, quickly, obviously kind of a weird fight tonight. You said you thought Berkman would be running. He definitely was backing up the whole time. What did you think about the fight? Were you happy with the way it turned out, or were you a little disappointed?
I'm a little bit disappointed because I was expecting that he was going to try and bang with me, but he didn't. So he's always had to fight a guy who's running all the way and stuff like that. But I proved that I can stay 3 rounds the same pace, and let's see what happens in the future.
And Dana, I know that obviously don't matchmake afterwards, but you are in need of somebody to face Matt Brown. He had said that he'd like to. The performance a little underwhelming tonight, maybe. Is he in the running for that fight, or do you guys have another plan?
Well, he's the number 6 ranked guy in the world. He's one of the top guys in the world.
Cowboy will do it,
and we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens.
And just last one I have is for Brad. Obviously, a big win for you. I know you needed a win. This was against a marquee name. Looked like your wrestling was much improved. Has that been a huge focus of yours? And just talk about how you felt about the win this evening.
Definitely felt good. I dropped 2 last year, so great to be back in the win column. My wrestling is always there. People don't really get to see it a lot, but it's there. It's been there, and I work on every aspect of the game.
Dana, to your right. I wonder if you can comment. It seemed like the fight in the main event was fought the style Cormier would have wanted the fight, and if you had drawn it up for him, and yet Jones won in kind of in fairly convincing fashion. Your impression of his performance and the conversation we had in the room downstairs the other day about whether he surpassed Anderson, does that change it in your mind at all?
Well, the other conversation that we had in the room the other day is I thought there would be a feel-out period in the first round. All the shit had been talked, all the thing. There was no feeling out in that fight. They went for it from the minute the bell rang. One of the best first rounds I've ever seen in a title fight. And Cormier was doing good for the first 3 rounds. I mean, he was working in his inside when they got in the clinch, big uppercuts, throwing punches. John Jones has so many tools and so many weapons, and Cormier literally took everything he had tonight. And yeah, I mean, John Jones, it's just so hard for me because John Jones is so young and has so many more things to accomplish. But he's beat the who's who. He's cleaned out the division. He's breaking records. And if this continues, yeah, probably the greatest ever.
You said the other day that the trend on the pay-per-view was good. Now, normally you also say that the gate matches the pay-per-view, and you didn't do as good on the gate.
The pay-per-view's it's blowing what I said out of the water.
Really?
Yeah.
So
more than 750.
Close to 7 figures then?
I don't know. I hope so. That'd be awesome.
The other, can you put John in perspective in terms of anybody out there that could potentially beat him? When you look at his overall game, Gustafsson gave him that close fight. The word out there is that maybe John didn't really train seriously for that bout. But can you kind of put him in some kind of perspective? And what do you think could motivate him after this, after he's beaten? Yet another great
He says he
challenger?
wants to be the greatest ever. If you want to be the greatest ever, you have to continue to be motivated and to come in and perform like he did tonight and every other night since he's started. He has so many weapons, so many tools. But now we've seen twice. If you want to bring a dogfight to Jones, Jones can do that too. And that's one of the most important things. The question is, what happens to a guy when he gets into deep water? It's fun being a fighter when you're the guy kicking everybody's ass. But when you start getting some back, that's when you find out, who's a real champion. And John Jones has proven it twice.
And Donald, can I ask you, as a teammate and just getting to see Jones in the gym all the time, I mean, what is that like to see him up close? And I mean, from a fighter standpoint, we look at him almost as like this unbeatable guy. Do you, as a fighter, see him that way? And does he have any discernible flaws that you can see in his game?
Oh, I'm not going to talk about John's flaws, but I mean, training with John, yeah, he is a gamer, man. Seeing him train, and sometimes I ask, like, John, why aren't you bringing in like crazy wrestlers to get ready for Cormier? He's like, nah, what I got here at Jackson is good enough. And I'm like, I'll be goddamned, all right. And he goes out there and performs. So the son of a bitch is talented, man. I every chance I get in the ring with him and I spar and play around with him. And my hat's off to the dude, man. He's a young stud, that's for damn sure.
More stupid shit he does.
And
sparring with John Jones. That sounds
and just to follow up on that, Donald, just to ask you, usually, like a lot of times, the smaller guys, are quicker and you can do things that the bigger guys can't. But how do you find John when you're in there? I know you're not really seriously sparring, but I mean, how do you find it when you're in there with it? Oh, well, maybe you are. I don't know.
Yeah, I give it hell every single time. So that's John and I have a good relationship. We're not trying to hurt each other, but I go after it and hopefully give him looks that he's never seen. And likewise, he throws a bunch of crazy stuff. He plays with me. He's a lot heavier than me, and if he wanted to turn it up, I'm sure he could injure me. But like I said, we're teammates, and that's that.
Question for Hector Lombard back over here to your right. The question came up about the Matt Brown fight. I'll ask you, how are you feeling physically after the fight? And is that something that still interests you now that you have gone 3 hard rounds tonight?
I think Roddy Madonna made more sense for me. I mean, it's up to Dana, but I think that Roddy is not gonna fight for the title, so I think that that makes sense. But let's see what he decides.
Dana, what do you think?
No, I think he's right. I think any of those guys. He's the number 6 guy in the world. He could fight any of those guys. He could fight Tyrone Woodley. He could fight Brown. He could fight Rory. Any of those guys. We'll see what happens.
And Dana, we know the next fight for John Jones is gonna be the winner of Gustafsson Johnson. I know you confirmed that when you were on Fox Sports 1. But after that, I mean, I know it's big if, but if Jones goes through that, I mean, are there still challenges for him at light heavyweight, or do you feel like his future does lie at heavyweight?
Are there challenges after fighting one of those guys?
Like, is you said he kind of cleared out the division. I mean, you see.
Well,
John...
he's beat the who's who. I mean, he's definitely. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I mean, in this sport, every time you think there's not another guy pops up. So right now, these two monsters are going to fight, Gustafsson and Johnson, and we'll see who wins that, and we'll go from there.
And I don't know if you saw or not, but it looks like the heavyweights are already looking at him. Fabricio Verdum tweeted out earlier, and he told John Jones, impressive performance, but you better stay in your division. So it seems like the heavyweights are already watching John Jones, at least right now anyways.
They should be. Yeah, he's a big guy. I don't know how long he's going to want to make 205 or if he'll ever want to make that jump to heavyweight. I'm sure he'll want to.
And one question for Kyoji Horiguchi. Obviously, impressive win tonight, undefeated in the UFC. Where do you feel like you fit into this title race? Seems like you may be right, in that mix now, maybe one, if not, right there for the title.
今日素晴らしい試合で4連勝目を挙げたわけなんですけども、タイトルレースで今自分はどの位置にいると思いますか？
まだやっぱ下の方で全然まだまだです。
I need to go a few steps more to face the title shot because I need to improve more.
This question's for Cowboy over here. Donald, you've talked before about, first round slow starts, feeling out. This first round, you spent the whole time working him on, you locked up his shoulder, then you had his back, and you had him in danger, pretty much the whole first round. How did that go in with, kind of you getting into your rhythm and doing your thing?
My warm-up was a lot different. I brought Bam Bam Healy and a guy, former UFC guy, and we did about 3 rounds during the Marquardt fight and pretty much fought and got ready. So I was coming out round 4, ready to go. So trying to figure out what I got to do to come out guns blazing. And, yeah, I felt solid. Had a great sweat, ready to go. I didn't know someone was going to wear their Nikes and run the whole fight, so I was definitely upset.
And you said you've been plenty vocal before, and with, the Pettis RDA fight being made tonight, you've never been really so concerned where you're at in the standing. You just want to keep working, and I assume that's probably still true, right? Like that's just whatever you could do next, right?
Yeah, I mean, if Dana says you can fight in Denver and get another paycheck, I would fucking love it.
And then my next question is for Brad. You had your winning streak. You had a setback, 2 setbacks in a row. How much pressure did you feel coming in tonight, against a name like Marquardt to get that victory?
There wasn't anything different. It's just another fight, but it definitely does feel good to be back in the win column. I hate the taste of defeat. That last fight against Boch, is one of those things like I lost, but I felt like I dominated him the whole fight up until he caught me, and it happens in this sport. You get caught,
And, with Marquardt, and like Boch and Marquardt, I know you've wanted bigger names now, and do you think you're going to keep getting bigger names as you go? I mean, I imagine that's where you want to be too, right?
Sure. I mean, whoever they want me to fight, if it makes sense, let's do it.
Question for Dana White. Dana, it would seem that tonight, because of the test that John Jones was given and still coming out on top, that indirectly the Alexander Gustafsson stock would have probably risen tonight, given what he was able to do with John Jones in his first fight. Would you say that in terms of anticipation for him taking on Anthony Johnson and then a possible rematch of John Jones, that he benefited in retrospect?
Yeah, I don't think that Gustafsson's stock ever dropped. I think that Gustafsson became a huge star after that fight with John Jones. I tell these guys that all the time in the fighter meetings. I mean, after that fight, the EA Sports did that cover vote, and he smoked everybody. He smoked Ronda, John, Anderson, George St. Pierre, everybody. So I don't think his stock has dropped since that fight. And we all know this fight was supposed to happen with him and John a while ago, but he got injured. And all it did really was now just set up this big, Rumble Johnson fight. But I don't think his stock ever dropped. I think his stock has been up there, and people have been waiting a long time to see that fight.
Question for Donald Cerrone. Donald, you obviously earlier expressed your frustrations with Miles Jury not wanting to engage. At the end of the fight, the kicks did seem to come out of frustration, but it also got a big ovation from the crowd. I know you're expressing frustration at that point, but are you also aware that you're maybe at least putting an exciting punctuation on a fight maybe the fans weren't able to really get into previously?
At that point, I was just tunnel vision thinking murder. That's all I could think. Yeah, just kick as hard as I could. That's all I thought. Wasn't going after fans, or it was just fuck you. That's all I could think.
And finally, question for Daniel Cormier. Dan, obviously the judges scored the fight 49-46. I think quite a few of us here on press row informally might have had it closer than that. A lot of us 48-47. Did you think the fight was closer than it was reflected on the scorecards?
You know, man, I actually have no idea what's going on inside of the cage. I usually ask my coaches, and I was aware that I was losing. You know, I thought the first round he did well, and towards the end of the round I started kind of gaining a little momentum. I thought second round I fought pretty well. Third round I thought I started the round well and didn't finish the third round very well. Fourth round I took it off. He won that round going away. And in the fifth round, I think neither one of us did much at all. We just kind of hugged each other for 5 minutes. So, but that's what happens when you fight as hard as we did. So, you know, he won the fight. I don't know how to judge a fight. So, you know I lost, and John won. That's pretty much all it boils down to. It doesn't matter if it's closer or if it's not. You know, he won the fight.
Elise Trejo with AskMen.com. So my question naturally goes to the lady. One, how do your fists feel after completely beating your opponent's face tonight?
They feel great. As long as nothing's broken, I felt awesome.
There you go. And Dana, I'm sure you saw how dominant she was tonight.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you got in store for her in this coming year?
She looked awesome, and I have to publicly apologize to her. She tried out for the Ultimate Fighter, and I told her she was too old. So I was wrong again.
So how does it feel to be too old to fight in the UFC?
Too old, whatever. Well, basically, I was told go out, win a couple of fights, and keep pressing on, and that's basically what I did. I had to show them that I earned my spot here. You know, I did what it took for me to get to this point, and I don't think age is a factor, especially with me. I've been an athlete all my life. It's never been a struggle for me, and I've never stopped training. So it was very important for me to keep the fight where I wanted and to finish how I wanted to finish, and that's with my hand raised.
All right, thank you.
Question for Daniel Cormier, back here to your right, all the way in the back. There you go. I know there was a lot of emotion going into this fight. Did any of that play into your approach and like the game plan? Obviously, it seemed like you came out and got right in his face, but I mean, did the emotion kind of weigh in? I know some guys say, you know, it can actually zap you if you let it, weigh on you too much.
No, you know, it didn't. You know, I mean, when you're fighting a guy like John that's so creative and so long, you have to get in his face. You know, it's the only way that I was going to be able to fight him. I thought I found some good success in fighting, body punching, and I was landing some really good uppercuts on the inside. You know, I said something leading into this fight. I was looking for the man to push me and put me into a war, and he did that. You know, he did that. I mean, by the end of the first round, we both were bleeding, you know, and it was like, you know what, this is what a championship fight should be. And you know what, man, the guy just he got better, and he won the fight. You know, he's if anything surprised me is that he felt a little bigger in the cage than he looks normally. He's a big guy, strong, hangs on you, and when he starts to hang on you, it can zap you a little bit later in the fight. So. No emotions. I competed like I a professional. I didn't fight on emotion. I knew I was going to have to get in his face, and that's what I did.
The second round, you came out and you tagged him with some really hard shots. Obviously, I think that was your best round. It looked like you tagged him really hard with some uppercuts. It looked like you hurt him a couple of times. Maybe if you weren't holding his neck, he might have even staggered back a little bit more. What happened between that second and third round? Because the third round was very, very close and very even. I mean, how much credit do you give to John for being able to bounce back the way he did? Because it did seem like you had him in at least a little bit of trouble in that second round.
Well, I mean, he has a champion spirit, and he showed that. You know, the third round, you know, you kind of start to see momentum of a fight, you know, and if the second round was my best round, it was because at the end of the first, I started doing a little better. Third round, he was able to actually, I thought it was going to snowball, but then he took the momentum back. And then once he took the momentum back, it was difficult to switch it again because he's a champion. And the one thing I thought he did a better job of tonight was as he was backing up, he was actually countering. That's something he had never done before. So even after so many title defenses, you start to see little wrinkles in his game, and I thought that was the key. He did a good job of actually landing punches as I was pressuring him. I didn't expect that.
And question for John. Congratulations on the win. I know there was a lot of bad blood with you in DC. You said it even in the post fight and everything, but at the end of the day, do you still respect him as an athlete? I mean, he came in and gave you a fight, went 5 hard rounds with you. I mean, how do you feel about his performance? Can you separate that from the personal feeling?
Yeah, I thought he had a very good performance out there tonight. Absolutely. My lips swollen, my eyes fat. It was a 5-round fight. It was entertaining. He had some great flurries in there. And as an athlete, how can you not respect a guy like that?
You've had personal battles before. I would say maybe the closest one to this one is the Rashad Evans fight. A lot of things were said before that one. How much did that play into your performance? You seemed confident. You came out there and you looked loose. You were actually, I think somebody said you were in the crowd even before the fight signing autographs or something. So, I mean, how did all the emotion, everything weigh in? It seemed like you maybe had one of your best performances of your entire career tonight.
Yeah, thank you. I was in the audience. I tried to sign autographs at each entrance of the arena. That was, I was cold for some reason. I couldn't get going. I was like, ugh. My coach asked me if I wanted a sip of coffee, and I was like, no, I don't want to mess with my system. So I went out to the arena, and I drew energy from the fans. And, seeing the fans before the fight, they just did not expect to see me in the audience. And I heard one person started crying. So, I mean, how does that not energize you? I went back into my locker room, and I just felt so much better, and I was just like, yeah, this is my arena. But yeah, I'm fighting tough, scary dudes is what I do. And, a lot of people said, John, you seem more calm and relaxed and just having fun more than ever. And I've accepted my job. I accept that it's not going to be easy, but I know that I have the cardio to last. And as long as I don't get knocked out, I'm going to be there in your face, no matter what you do to me, fighting you back for 25 minutes. So it's almost like accepting death. Once you're not afraid of death anymore, you can just kind of have fun and do your thing. That's where I'm at right now when it comes to MMA.
And last question, going into this fight, you said very openly your goal is to be the greatest of all time. And why wouldn't you want to be the greatest of all time?
Absolutely.
A lot of people, and myself included, felt DC was the guy. He was the equal. He was a heavyweight who came down and was just an incredible fighter. He pushed you, but you still ultimately won. Do you feel like you did take a step closer towards that ultimate goal of where you feel like you are the greatest of all time? Because again, I really do believe DC was a big test.
Yeah. My plan is to become the greatest fighter of all time, and it's so feasible, it's so attainable. All I got to do is just stay focused and keep believing just the way I believe, and to keep working. And I do believe 2015 will be the year I solidify it. Big thing that I'm excited about is getting back to Albuquerque. I do not train in between fights, and that's pretty well documented. I'm sure a lot of people have seen pictures of me having this big gut and things like that. And normally I get back to Ithaca after a fight and hang out with my buddies. I have guys over. We play video games all day in my little movie room or whatnot. And I become a full-time dad. And now that I live in Albuquerque, man, it's going to be huge. This next fight is going to be something else. Going to get right back to strength and conditioning. We're going to actually start working towards a black belt and jiu-jitsu. And I get to work on things. I'm so excited for this development and for this maturity that I'm getting ready to start going through, training in my off season. Expect whoever I fight next to have their hands full.
Daniel Cormier, as tough as it may be, please describe this moment in your life.
It's very difficult. I've worked so hard to try and become a champion at the highest levels for a really long time, and it hasn't really worked out for me. This one's tough. I truly believe that I can get the job done. I thought I could get the job done, and as we were fighting, it still felt pretty good. And then I can't say enough about his mentality inside of that octagon. I've shared that cage with some very, very strong men and some very big men, heroes, superheroes, and I can't say enough about his grit and his determination, because I pushed him, and I went after him, and I fought him, and he did a great job, but difficult. But man, I've had to rebuild myself a number of times like people can't even imagine. And this is no different. This is not gonna ruin me, the one way or the other. I'm gonna stand across the cage from that man again, and I'll believe just as I did tonight, and I'll take the fight to him again, I guess.
Thank you for being so candid. And last, how do you feel? Physically, how do you feel? It looked a little difficult for you to sit down.
I'm all right. I've got a knot on my leg. That's why I was walking a little slow, but I'm fine. He got me with a good shot in the body in the first round that made it difficult. And John and his coaches did a great job of coming up with a game plan. Early in the fight, he was hitting me with left hooks or right hooks to the body. And as the fight progressed, he started throwing them a little straighter, and that knee actually, that knee really did take a lot out of me early, I guess. But I feel fine. I'll take some time and spend some time with my children and my family, and then I'll come back.
Question for John. Congrats, John. The fight, I think if people would have mapped it out and they knew it went this way, they would say it might have favored Cormier, and yet you won the fight, in a style that might have favored him. Do you get any more, joy out of the victory, beating him essentially at his own game?
Yeah, absolutely. My wrestling coach, he is a collegiate wrestling coach right now. Where a lot of these coaches in MMA, they focus on MMA wrestling. My coach, his high school wrestling team is ranked 10th in the nation, and they have been for several years, Izzy Martinez. So Izzy's very connected to the wrestling community. And, he said, everywhere I go, man, all the tournaments, everyone is rooting for DC. He was like, the whole wrestling community is against you right now. And we have something to prove, John. We have to show these guys that if you went D1, that you would have been a national wrestling champion. If you would have went for the Olympics, you would have placed at the Olympics. We have to show them that you used your gifts for MMA and not wrestling. Because your dream got cut short and you had a kid and you had to give up wrestling doesn't mean that you can't wrestle with these great wrestlers. So we had a chip on our shoulder, and our goal was to go out there, have faith in our wrestling, and to take him down, and to earn the respect from the wrestling community. So I applaud my coach for building up my belief and believing in me. And as far as beating him in somewhat of his own style, I watched him fight so much that I actually absorb who he is. I absorb grinding. I absorb, I watched him hold my boy Frank Mir against the cage, and I was just like, I see what you're doing there. And just watching my opponents so much, I start to subconsciously inherit their talent and their gifts. And so a lot of times you see me do exactly what they would want to do to me, I'd end up doing it to them. I am proud to say that this team is unbroken. So everyone who brought Breaking Bones shirts, you saw what happened. Feel free to buy yourself an unbroken shirt from Reebok. I felt like we were the king of the grind tonight. We work hard at Greg Jackson's, working in the desert, man. In order to hang out in the desert, you got to be tough. The animals that live in the desert are tough. The plants that survive in the desert are tough. My boy Cowboy here is a bad mofo. So we embrace the grind. We are the king of the grind. Today, our team went 3-0. 4-0. So, you guys want to be a part of the best martial arts program in the world? Feel free to join Jackson's MMA.
And John, you referenced a couple times in it.
That was Greg. Kidding. Go ahead.
John, you had referenced a couple times earlier that 2015 might be the year you get recognition as the greatest fighter ever. What is it that you think you need to do to get to that point? And do you think that Anderson right now has that, or is it somebody else?
Anderson, I'll start by saying, is a guy I respect tremendously. You know, I've been looking up to him since I was about 19, 18 years old. I've studied all of his fights, and I really want to model my career after him. Anderson has won so many world titles, and you can't discredit what he's been able to do. At the same time, with that being said, with all due respect, I believe that I've had the toughest resume in this history of this sport. I've fought so many amazing athletes. So many times people thought I was going to lose. I will give Anderson and George being above me. I think that attitude will keep me honest. It will keep me determined and driven. I'll keep that as my psychology until it can't be argued anymore. 2015 will be my best year. Like I said, I'm getting ready to move back to Albuquerque and get right back to work. I'm excited to see what this does to me.
One more question for you and one for Dan. A lot of people think, your future is at heavyweight, and a lot of people have talked about a fight with you and Cain Velasquez as it would be one of the great fights of all time. But I heard you said on TV something about fighting at middleweight, and I don't know, obviously I didn't hear what you said, but can you tell us what you said and what your thoughts would be on taking on Velasquez at heavyweight, and then, if you can just elaborate on what you meant by making 185.
To be honest, I would fight Cain Velasquez in a heartbeat. I really would. I would love to fight AKA's best athletes, and I believe I could defeat them all. I believe that our team is the best team in the world. With that being said, my maturity has allowed me to make weight a lot easier. This camp, around being 3 weeks outside of the camp, I started having to eat more and forcing myself to eat more to keep my weight up. I was losing weight too fast, and that's a testament to hard work, focus, discipline. So fighting at heavyweight would be surely to entertain the fans, and it would have to be against the perfect opponent. Making 205 is not a challenge for me at all. It hasn't been a challenge for me. For a long time, I've been criticized for being too big for my weight class, and I think it's an excuse of people who don't understand my success. I'm not too big for light heavyweight division. I'm built the way I'm built. I have very skinny legs, but I make weight just fine. So I am a true light heavyweight. I will be a light heavyweight for a long time. And yeah.
Thank you. And Dan, if I could just ask you, everybody was talking to you about the difficulty of getting past John's kicks and being able to get inside. Had you known you would have been inside so much of the fight, could you have understood this outcome coming this way if you had known that you would have spent so much of the fight clinched up with him and close to him?
I mean, that was my intent, was to be close. It was. I think we make a lot of. We talk a lot about reach and stuff, and even on the outside, we were kind of trading jabs and stuff. So it wasn't as big a deal. I think it's more his tactics and everything. He has a way of making himself feel actually bigger inside of the cage. It's not his height or anything. It's his abilities that makes him hard to deal with. But it was my intent to get close, so I prepared for it. If anything, I didn't feel like he was going to be able to wear on me as he did, and that's what he did his most success, I guess.
There was so much focus about the talk that you guys had previously about you saying that you bet you could take him down. Do you think people and perhaps even judges were watching whether you could take him down, and when you did, do you feel that kind of, especially doing it multiple times, sealed the win for you tonight?
I think a lot of times I visualize the fight. I played it in my head so many times, and it went different ways every time I looked at the fight mentally. And I came up with the conclusion that me getting the first takedown would set the tone. I believe that Daniel, through all of his interviews, he really put a lot of eggs in the basket of being able to take me down. And like I said, not being afraid of death, right? When you're not afraid of it, it has no power over you, and it allows you to, go to war the way you need to go to war. And that's the way I learned to look at his takedown. It's like, okay, Daniel wants to take me down. now what? Once you get me down, you know, I told people, I said, he's probably going to get me down. But then what are you going to do? You know, I started to really have a lot of pride in my jiu-jitsu, and I believed if I got taken down tonight, I was going to be able to display what I have off of my back. So yeah, it feels good to be able to take him down, you know, and to be able to hold him against the cage the way I did. And, you know, I'm sure a lot of the fans won't find that entertaining. But my job is not necessarily to make the fans go woo and wow. My job is to win the fight, no matter how ugly or whatever tactic I had to use. Let's remember, Randy Couture, one of the greatest of all times, that was his whole game, holding guys against the cage. And that's what I did tonight. I'm not apologetic for it, and came out with the win.
And in regard to the 2015 schedule, you clearly have another fight coming with the Gustafsson and the January.
I would say that's disrespectful to Anthony Johnson to say that I have a fight against Gustafsson.
No, and Johnson. But after that fight, would you then make the decision on heavyweight?
No, you know, I really don't even want to talk about heavyweight anymore. You know, I'm making weight pretty good at light heavyweight. And when I do go heavyweight, it'll be something me and Dana talks about. And we will have the right opponent. And it'll be for the right purse.
John, at the close of the fight, obviously there was kind of an intense little exchange between you guys. You stopped early to celebrate, and then I think threw a punch when Daniel kind of led up to, and then I think Daniel actually threw a punch maybe after the bell. Just what was going through your head right there? I mean, kind of walk us through what you were thinking as that unfolded.
Well, I put my hands up, and you know, I was surprised that Daniel didn't attack me because we had more time in the fight. Once I realized that he let his guard down, I snuck in 2 punches before the bell rang. After the bell rang, he snuck in a few punches. I don't think any of them hit me. He almost hit Herb Dean. And that's why I gave him the second sign, because he tried to hit me after the bell.
And on the post-fight show, you had some kind of intense words. You know, kind of said, "Listen, I don't like Daniel Cormier. I don't respect him. Hope I can fight him again so I can whip him." But when you see the respect that he's offering you, the emotion that he has, does that change your opinion at all?
Not really, to be honest. Not really. I know if he would have won, he'd been up here talking all types of trash. So I don't feel sorry for him. This is combat.
Last question, right here.
John, congratulations on the win. You've beaten a lot of people in the top of the light heavyweight division. When you look at the rankings, do you see other challenges there that excite you?
Yeah, you know, the light heavyweight division, there's always going to be somebody new. You know, if you think about it, Anthony Johnson was just written off recently, and now he's back and he's looking good, and there's a lot of people that thinks he's the guy to beat me. So there's always going to be somebody. My job is to take them all very seriously, and to continue to work hard and take them all one at a time. As long as I keep that mindset, you know, no matter how great this guy is, I will humanize him through work and studying and using my team, and we'll beat them. You know, sometimes it feels like it's me against the world and it's me against my division. But at the end of the day, it's me against one person, one guy at a time. Fortunately, I get several weeks and several months to know who I'm fighting and prepare for them. And I'll keep taking them down, one guy at a time.
Thank you guys very much. Have a great weekend.